Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this program. This afternoon, I would like to follow up on this report by the Inter-Parliamentary Union. Zimbabwe seems to be always hogging the headlines, but for the wrong reason. The Inter-Parliamentary Union has condemned the recall of the CCC members of parliament. Let's just listen to this clip and we can discuss it.
Parliamentarians from the CCC or CCC party claiming that speakers of both houses had revoked their mandates in an arbitrary manner. It alleges that the speakers acted on a fraudulent letter from an imposter claiming to act as the interim Secretary General of the CCC.
The International Court has acknowledged the fact that Shabangu is an imposter. This is bad for Zanu PF, and I don't know how Mnangagwa will react to this and how he thinks he's going to maneuver through the world when the world is clearly rejecting him. His illegitimacy crisis is only increasing by the day, and it looks like he wanna just live in Zimbabwe and go his own way without any international interference. I don't know how this is going to happen, but let's continue.
While ignoring all communications coming from the CCC parliamentarians. The committee believes that these 23 newly elected opposition parliamentarians should never have lost their seats in parliament and calls on the authorities to consider modifying this procedure to ensure that all members of parliament can carry out their mandate freely.
I have delivered the video just as I've promised yesterday that this is not a joke, this is not fake news, this is happening for real. The international community is rejecting Zanu PF and is ordering Mnangagwa to restore the MPs he recalled and his Shabangu guy. And everyone now has proved that the Shabangu is an imposter. There's even a video where Shabangu was meeting Zanu PF at Crown Plaza at a hotel. I'll publish it tomorrow, but let's continue.
We invite you to adopt the draft decisions on pages 43 to 46 and 45 to 48 of the English and French versions, respectively, Mr. President.
Any reservation on this section of the report? No? Adopted.
Thank you. I will move to 8.
Chinonzi pari parliament chi ndinotanga ndaenda ku IPU ndo vacho ivava.
We'll stop it there. Benjamin, what's your take on this one?
Good day to you all. We are not used to Zimbabwe making the headlines for the wrong reason. And I believe this was, my take on this is, was the recalls done procedurally? Was due process followed? I don't think so. Was Sevenzo Shabangu an imposter? I don't think so. I think he was there in the CCC, he was paid, and the rest is history. Was he the interim Secretary General? I don't think so either, but he was there in the CCC. So it kind of complicates the situation, because let's look at it this way. CCC chose to be ambiguous. They had no constitution, which means anything goes. It's a fight with no rules, basically. No holds barred. So we are in this position, which I think Zanu PF can defend themselves and get away with it. It's a circus, basically. It's a mess. It's murky waters, let me say.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think at the time when the recalls were made, we did comment on it, and I expressed the same view that let the courts decide. But I think my take on this one here, I'm particularly disappointed by the IPU because these elections have been condemned by SADC, the AU, and even by Zimbabwe's own Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, election observers. So this government is illegitimate. If by SADC's own report, the election process was not done according to the Zimbabwe electoral laws and by SADC's own principles and guidelines on democratic elections, the result is an illegitimate government. So in this particular case, I'm surprised that the IPU did not take those realities on the ground. Are they ignoring them and just concentrating on how CCC members of parliament were recalled? This is totally nonsensical. And let's not forget here that one of the reasons why we are in this mess is because CCC were hell-bent on participating in these elections, the 2023 elections, just like they participated in other elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, they'll give Zanu PF legitimacy. They participated regardless, out of greed. And in this particular instance, in 2023, even when SADC, the AU, had come out with their reports condemning the process as illegitimate, CCC leaders still went ahead and took up their seats. That's undermining SADC's position, undermining the AU, even if they wanted to take any measures against Zanu PF. And in the end, SADC decided to adopt the report condemning the election as a farce, but to do nothing about it. And I'm interested in this video here where he is even calling on SADC to take action and put pressure on the Zanu PF government to reinstate the CCC elected officials who were recalled. This is totally nonsensical. I can't believe that the IPU even entertained this nonsense.
You know, we cannot blame the top when we are forgetting the source. Let's start at the source. How did we get to this point? Rightfully, you just said, you know, SADC, the AU, and all international observers, including our own domestic observer, condemned these elections. And once those elections were condemned, it means everything was nullified. So there shouldn't have been any MPs, there shouldn't have been any president, there shouldn't have been any other, you know, post that was produced through a flawed election, right? By virtue of people taking up seats, that is when everybody undermined the authority or undermined the reports of all the reports, right? So we cannot blame, you know, others and forget ourselves who are the main culprits. CCC did this to themselves. Had they waited and you know, waited for SADC to come up with a solution to this whole mess, I think we would have been talking a different story by now, right? I don't see what else you would have wanted the IPU to do when everybody has taken up seats and we've already started, business as usual. It was not business as usual because everything was condemned in the first place. So for me, I would not blame them. I would blame the source, the players that went through the whole election, the players that came out victorious or losers in the whole election. Those are the ones that have a question, questions to answer to. Not the top. You deal with the source first. They shouldn't have taken up those seats. You cannot cry saying elections are rigged, but I'm willing to take up the seats because I won. That's greed.
I totally agree with you there. I think the international, the Inter-Parliamentary Union here, to say the least, they've got the wrong end of the stick. If they were going to take any action here, then it would have to be to condemn the whole Zanu PF government, because it is illegitimate. The people of Zimbabwe had no meaningful say in those last year's elections. So the whole regime is illegitimate. But if you're going to start cherry picking, in this particular case, I'm not going to play the video, but if we were to listen to this video here, and I suggest those who like to listen to it, they should go to ZimEye. It's available there, where Denda defended the Zanu PF regime and went into detail of what actually happened. I particularly think it is ridiculous that we keep on giving the floor to an illegitimate regime. If we're going to accept that the election process was legitimate, when it has been condemned by everybody who witnessed it, and then start picking on small, if you accept that wrong, then we start picking on the small things. To me, the recall of the CCC elected members is nothing compared to the original scene of the rigged elections. CCC themselves, those leaders who were recalled, they themselves ignored the fact that this electoral process was flawed. But when it comes to interfering with their privileged position, their gravy-trained seats, which is what they're complaining about here, all of a sudden, they're wide awake. I think I, as an ordinary Zimbabwean, I'm not interested in the gravy-trained seats of those elected officials. I'm interested in a Zimbabwe that is a functional democracy, where the people of Zimbabwe have got a meaningful say in the governance of the country. And to start paying attention to those who are sold out on that goal, to me, goes to show that the IPU, this IPU, has absolutely no idea what it's talking about, what it's doing. It's more interested in protecting and defending and upholding the greed of the few at the expense of the millions of ordinary Zimbabweans who have been denied a meaningful say in the governance of the country. Zimbabwe is a failed state and is in this mess because the country has failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. And this CCC officials are part of it. They themselves were hell-bent on participating in these flawed elections out of greed. And when they started fighting among themselves, the IPU now is wide awake. It's even trying to pressurize SADC to take action. If SADC is going to take action on this matter, it must declare this regime illegitimate. And again, to clarify on that point, the issue of SADC saying that there should be fresh elections should be ruled out. Clearly, Zimbabwe does not have a healthy and functioning democracy. The opposition is so infiltrated by Zanu PF to the point of becoming absolutely, utterly useless. Soon after the 2023 elections, CCC has imploded. And to say that we should have fresh elections under those conditions is totally meaningless. CCC, I've said before, and I'll say it again, is nothing more than just Zanu PF Team B. It's in the game to play, to give the process credibility, and to make sure that Team A wins. And now we are being cheated and being told that CCC somehow are legitimate. We have got an illegitimate regime, but somehow CCC, those CCC leaders who won a few gravy train seats last year are legitimate. I think that is what I find outrageous in this IPU decision in this matter. Do you want to give your concluding remarks there?
Yes, thank you. So I would say a win for democracy is not just by restoring the 23 members of parliament that were recalled. I think that is the shallow end. A win for democracy is the nullification of the whole and entire, election, 2023 election, from presidential right up to the councillors, right up to whatever post that was being voted for. I think that is the win, the real win for democracy. This battle is for personal, endeavors. It's not the whole, the whole picture that we need to bring across. The reports stated that the whole entire election, did not say the presidential only, it says the entire process did not meet the standards that were set, both internationally and locally. So by virtue of that, that is the bigger picture we are looking towards, not the 23. Yes, the 23, the procedures that were done and all that, it was always murky and it was not clear what was going on from both the Zanu PF, how they conducted the recalls, and how CCC was organized within themselves. It was not clear. It was a circus, basically. And these positions were not supposed to have been taken up in the first place. That is the bigger picture. That is one fact that we should always keep. There was no one that was supposed to take any post because the whole procedure had been earlier condemned. Out of greed, people went ahead and got sworn in, and now we are in this mess because of that greed. So in my conclusion, I would say, it's all about looking at the big picture. What is it that we really want at the end of this? Surely I know it just doesn't stop. Zimbabwe just doesn't, what Zimbabwe needs just doesn't stop by reinstating 23 guys. No, Zimbabwe needs to have a good and healthy functioning democracy where the will of the people is represented totally, not partially, but totally. That's my conclusion.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. What I'm just showing there on the screen is the conclusion of the SADC Election Observer Mission report. Conclusion number 13.3 noted, as detailed in section 6 and 7 of the report, some aspects of the harmonized election fell short of the requirements of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe's Electoral Act, and SADC's principles and guidelines governing democratic elections. That cannot be any clearer than that. So the process is flawed and illegal. It cannot produce any legitimate results. And this issue of IPU now claiming that this recall, even if they were reinstated, would that make them legitimate? The answer is no. They're still illegitimate. And why are we fighting over something that is trivial and forgetting what is really important here? We have got a regime that is illegitimate. That point cannot be overemphasized. And I think it is important here that we, as the people of Zimbabwe, should be clear what we want. We want a legitimate government. We want to have free, fair, and credible elections. And this circus is getting us absolutely nowhere. We're just going round and round in circles here. Nelson Chamisa and this CCC are the ones who sold out. They were supposed to implement reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging elections. They did not. They participated in last year's elections as in the past, knowing fully well that the process is flawed and that participating only gives Zanu PF legitimacy. And keeping on siding with them is not going to stop this circus. It's only helping to perpetuate it. And I think Zimbabweans should wake up to that reality. What we want is free, fair, and credible elections. What we want is democratic reforms to be implemented so that we've got free, fair, and credible elections. To pretend that somehow MDC, CCC will deliver that is naive, to say the least. I was hoping that international bodies like IPU would be concerned about what is really important and not what is trivial. I think in this, they're focusing on how the CCC leaders started fighting among themselves and these were recalled. To me, it's focusing on the trivial. We want the important things. We have got an illegitimate government whose MPs on both sides, Zanu PF and CCC, were not elected through free, fair, and credible elections. The process was flawed and illegal. And just because CCC leaders out of greed decided to take up their seats, and some of them were claiming that those are liberated zones, as if to say the election process in those liberated zones were free, fair, and credible, is nonsensical. The whole electoral process was flawed and illegal, period. We need to focus on the real issue here. And I think we need, as people of Zimbabwe, we need to be clear what we want. I'm not interested in reinstating these CCC sellouts who were recalled. It's of no relevance to the destiny of the country. It's not going to change anything. If anything at all, it will only, if they are reinstated, are we now saying could we have got a legitimate government? Particularly if SADC was to be involved in getting those people reinstated. Does that mean SADC now recognizes this, this government as legitimate? We have an illegitimate regime, and we need to sort out that problem. And we need to focus on it and not be sidetracked on trivial matters. Thank you very much, Benjamin, and thank you very much for the listeners for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Good night to you all.